I'm down here in the garden to talk about two areas that I planted in cover crops last fall and to demonstrate to you some of the techniques for cutting them back and doing the end game for your cover crops. So let's walk over here and take a look at one of the areas. This is an area that I planted in ryegrass and Austrian pea. And I cut it back in the first week of March, and you can see that it's been turned over as well. I used this spading fork to turn it over after I cut the crop back. So I used a pruning shear and a hedge trimmer to cut the crops back, and then I used the spading fork to turn them under and cover them up. But what I want to show you is how long it takes for these things to decompose. So it's been about a month, been 4 weeks, and you can see when I turn it over that the grass has started to decompose, it's started to turn brown and yellow, but it's still not completely decomposed. So that's why you want to cut back your crop about 2 to 4 weeks before you actually put the crop in that you want to grow for the following year. And it takes that long, and these were actually fairly thin cover crops. If it's heavier, you want to leave longer time in order to allow the crop to decompose. Let's look over here to the right. Over in this area, I've planted fava beans, and some of them I'm going to use for a cover crop and cut back for the nitrogen fixation that they've been doing. But in other areas, I'm just going to leave it to harvest a crop in early May and perhaps as early as June. So let me just show you again how I do that. I take the pruning shears. If you have a small area, you can take it and just cut it off at the ground level and then chop it up into small pieces like so. Like that. And then you can either spade that in, or you can just leave it as a mulch on top of the ground. Or you can use, if you have a really large area, you can use something like a hedge trimmer to cut it off. And as I said in the talk and here as well, you can just leave the cut pieces on the top as a mulch, or you can take your spading fork and turn it over. And that's the end game for your cover crops.